Good morning. Excuse me. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located on planet Earth. It's yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave price trigger reports that we put in your hand each and every trading day. What's looking good? What's popping? You know what it is. It's that time that we get back to the grind. Hopefully, everyone had a wonderful weekend, spending it with friends and family. Now it's time to get back to these markets and see what's popping, what's cracking. Let's see what's good this morning. Getting right into the thick of things, taking a look at the overnight markets, as we always do. The Dow futures is up 74 points at 26,396. NASDAQ 100 futures up 94 at 10,553. E-mini S&P 500 up 14 and a quarter points at 3218 and a quarter. Russell My Hustle up 5.7 points at 1468.1. Bitcoin futures composite index up $775, trading at 10,390, pulling back from the overnight high of 10,420. Go Pulse Waves. Nat gas down a penny at 179. Crude oil futures down 20 cents at $41.10 a barrel. Long bond catching flames up 9.30 seconds at 181.12. That's 181 and 12.30. The real story, gold. Gold is up $33.50, trading at $1,931.50 an ounce after hitting $1,941.90 an ounce in the overnight market. That's right. Haven't seen these highs since that Super Bull market in 2011. Welcome back, gold. Go Pulse Waves. Silver up $1.55, trading at $24.40 an ounce after hitting the overnight high of $24.82 an ounce. Go Pulse Waves. If you are not making money in the gold and silver paper markets right now, what are you doing with your life? US dollar index down a whopping 62 pips. Make that 63 pips. 93.80. The overnight low was 93.60. Who told you that gold was going to visit that 93 handle? Go Pulse Waves once again. Looking at the forex market, you got the euro up 95 pips at 117.45. You got the pound sterling up 65 pips at 128.59. And you got the Aussie up 33 pips at 71.31. Canadian dollar down 19 pips at 133.95. Euro yen up 2 pips at 123.68. Dollar yen down 69 pips at 105.42. And then next in line, we got none other than the Kiwi. It is up 29 pips. Now switching over to food, we got beans at $9. That's right, beans at $9, even up 3/4 points. 3/4 of a point. You got corn down 1/4 of a point at 334 3/4, and wheat down a whopping 7 points at 532.50 after topping out at 539 even in the overnight market. All I can say is go Pulse Waves. Go Pulse Waves. It is so important to have these reports. As you can see, the markets are catching fire. And you would have been alerted to that long before it happened. That's why the end of day reports also are very important, especially on Thursday nights when I give you the intraday price inflection points. They give you hints and clues to solve the riddle as to where are the markets going to be popping next. I cannot stress enough how important that data is if you are engaged in these markets one way or another. It cannot be stressed enough. It is important to have information. Information is king, and you want to be put in a situation where you have the opportunity to make some coin. Am I right, people? So that's all we doing here. We're just trying to help you make some coin because you know you're gonna need them coins, man. Before it's all said and done, oh, you're gonna need them coins. Best believe you're gonna need them coins. So we try to help you with that. Try to help put those coins in your hands so you can do the things that you need to do and be able to afford to get the things you need to be able to afford to get. That's right. That's how we do it here. All right. So taking a look at the news that you can use. Not all news is good news, and not all news can you use. But we try to get to you what you need so that you don't have to worry about, hey, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Because that's what it boils down to. People want to know what's really going on in the world, what's really happening, And that's what we try to do. We try to give you the lowdown as to what's going on in the world. And at times it does stretch beyond markets because when you really break it down, it encompasses all of life. Money is important. All right, money, money, money. Not the love of money, because that is the root of all evil. What we're talking about here is finance. Everything that happens in this world can be traced back to money, to monetary gain. All right, whether you're giving money to charity to help the less fortunate, or whether you're engaged in enterprise for profit, at the end of the day, money is what makes the world go round. It costs money just to wake up in the morning. And yes, in most cases, it can cost you money to die. It costs you money to be born, and it costs you money to die. That's right. From the time you open your eyes in the morning, the dollar signs start rolling. And it's just a fact of life. We don't have to like it, but we do have to deal with it. We do have to deal with it. As far as the new stuff I'll be working on that today. As far as getting that on the reports, hopefully, crossing my fingers, you'll be able to see those new coins. If not tonight, then maybe the next day. But this week is my plan to roll this stuff out. All right. So yeah, trying my best, man. Working hard, trying to get everything on and popping, on and cracking, and we'll see what happens. So much going on in the world. It's so much, and I know it could get really. It's looking like things are about to get a little bit darker. Put it that way. And as long as the U.S. dollar keeps sliding the way it is, I think you have to really think about what's happening. So I think in the next couple of weeks, you'll see them talk about. That's why I've been such in a rush to get this stuff up and running for you guys, because a lot of markets are starting to wake up and start to crack. So that's what we're going to do. I will say, well, actually, no, I'll save that. Let me give you the overnight stuff, and then we'll go ahead. Let's see. All right. So first and foremost, we got Oh, 1 second here. All right. Gold skyrockets to an all-time high as U.S.-China tensions flare. Market analysts think that gold could hit $2,000 as early as this week. Billionaire investor Ray Dalio warns a developing capital war between the U.S. and China could tank the dollar and wreak havoc with the U.S. economy. There's a trade war. There's a technology war. There's a geopolitical war, and there could be a capital war, he said on Fox Business. Warren Buffett may not be the kindly grandfather figure he presents to the public. Elon Musk says the billionaire investor in Berkshire Hathaway chief's benevolent public image might be overstating the case, the Tesla boss said. Interesting. So now you got billionaires beefing, huh? Amazon broadens its search for part-time delivery drivers in India who are paid less than $2 an hour. Good grief. Really? 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 Drivers who sign up for the Amazon Flex program can be a part of the company's delivery force in India, earning between $1.61 and $1.87 an hour. Wow. Goldman Sachs says stocks have never been more vulnerable to the failure of a few mega companies, and the risks of a blunder are quickly piling up. The stock market gains have been largely driven by 5 tech stocks, and one misstep by any of them could send the market reeling. Jefferies is telling investors to buy these 13 cheap under-the-radar stocks in order to bet on an economic recovery. The lesser-known companies look cheap and should benefit from improving earnings and a stronger U.S. economy, Jefferies says. If you listen to Jefferies, you're going to lose all your money. All right? He's telling you to catch falling knives. Stocks are some of the most accurately priced financial instruments in the world. Whether it's a bear market or a bull market. U.S. equities, for the most part, are usually very well priced. As a matter of fact, you can make an argument, and it's a weird situation. I've shown charts and graphs on it before, but in most cases, like the most heavily traded instruments are usually the most accurate. Like your S&P 500, the SPY ETF, the NASDAQ 100 QQQ ETF. Those are two of the most accurately priced instruments. The Russell, the IWM, very well priced. Very well priced. Equity trading also gives you something that even futures can't give you, and that's longer holding durations and periods. Futures are designed to expire. All right, so your commodity futures contracts, they expire. So if you want to, get long or short the S&P 500 and you want to trade the E-mini S&P 500, you can do that, but you have 4 different contract rollovers per year. You got March, you got June, you got September, you got December. So you can only hold the position for so long before you have to roll over to the next, the next month. And if they're not moving in tandem, like in a straight up pattern, you could actually take a loss during rollover. Meaning that, but most places you don't roll over anyway. You just have to get out, take profit, and then get back in the market. But it can be a little tricky. Just ask the ETF OIH, who has a lot of issues and problems with contango markets and things like that. But anywho, the reason why I bring this up, because let's say we get whiff that a real strong pullback is imminent. You could go in, sure. You could short the SPY or the QQQ. Easy, yeah, you could do that. Or you could get long their inverse ETFs, like for the QQQ, you could buy the QID. For the SP 500, you could buy the SDS easily. Yeah, easily. And those inverse ETFs, believe it or not, are pretty well priced also. But it's the leveraged ETFs that get you. They are not very well priced. The 3x, the 3 times ETFs, those tend to move like futures, meaning they will overshoot and overshot targets constantly. And you'll find that they also can have big gaps, huge gaps. All equities have gaps, even the ETFs. But it's something about the leveraged ones that have these more exaggerated patterns to them. Also, what you need to know is that the 3x ETFs, 3 times ETFs, those tend to break down also, meaning that they're almost designed to go to zero. And I'm being 100% honest with you. I'm talking about the inverse leverage ETFs. They routinely go to zero per se, and what happens is they have to get reverse split constantly. So if it gets down like really low, like $5 or $3, they'll hurry up, even $1, they'll hurry up and they'll reprice it back to 15 or back to 20 or even 30 or even more than that to give it more time to do whatever. I bring all that up because when you're in a bear market, like I said, it may be a little bit too much for you to be able to handle, extreme volatility in futures. And the reason I didn't bring up stock options like puts is because, again, you could buy leaps and things like that, but for the most part, options are designed to go to zero too. You just can't just, buy it and then just walk away and forget about it. They have to be managed, and you got to watch them. And there's a lot more to it than that, but that's why I didn't bring those up. Shares are easier, a lot easier to manage with the shares. So you can hold them, and you could buy the quid and forget about it, basically, in a sense. Or you could buy the QQQ if the market's going to keep going up, and you can forget about it. You got to wait. You don't have to worry about maintenance margins and things like that. Now, I say all that to say, even though I do trade those instruments a lot, but I like the futures more, only because of just how I do what I do. So I'm bringing all this up for a reason and a point, and we'll get to that, more of that in a little bit. All right, so Trump's top advisors are still pointing to signs of a V-shaped economic recovery despite surging coronavirus cases. A top economic advisor said hotspot states will only moderate the recovery, and the overall picture is very positive. Now, he has to say that. One of the jobs of the president is to cheerlead the economy and the market. That's their job as a president. Failure to do that means they're not doing the job. European and U.S. stocks are up, but only a little. In Europe, Germany's DAX rose 0.2%. Britain's FTSE 100 rose 0.3%, and the Euro Stoxx 50 was about flat. In Asia, China's Shanghai Composite rose 0.3%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 0.4%, and Japan's Nikkei fell 0.2% at the close. In the U.S., futures underlying the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P and the Russell and all of that, they rose between 0.3 and 0.9% respectively. Now, as far as earnings expected today, we got LVMH, we got Ryanair, and we got Hasbro highlighted today. And as far as on the data docket, we got the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions are due. All right, so that's the first half. Now let's get to the second half. I see you in the live. If y'all could go ahead and smash that like button for me. As far as the miners, like I said, this is a good shot in the arm for gold and silver mining stocks. Like I was warning you guys in the end of day report, this is a good time to do portfolio review, because if your mining stock is not going up, then you probably have invested and put money in the wrong company, and you probably need to shift that money to some mining stocks that are actually making money right now. I can't stress that enough. If you've been holding a miner, a long time, years, and that thing ain't moved, ain't doing nothing for you, if it can't rally when gold is about to break out and take out all-time highs, and you got a gold mining stock, are you kidding? If your gold mining stocks are not producing right now, those they're not increasing in value. Again, why Why are you wasting money away? All right, and having all this loss, because that's opportunity cost, opportunity loss. If you keep money in a dead stock. Same thing for your silver mining stocks. You trying to tell me with silver being up $1.50 this morning, your silver mining stocks can't move? They can't rally? Are you serious about that? They cannot rally? You are out of your mind. I would not be holding that in my portfolio. All right. That's money wasted. That's money that can be put somewhere else. There's an old adage, that you cut your losses and let your winners run. Another way to put that is, if you have a basket of 50 mining stocks and let's say three of them are not performing in a bull market for silver and gold, then those silver and gold mining stocks have to be let go. All right. I know most of you hearing that probably not going to do it because you're hard headed, but just think of it this way. You will not make as much money as you could have by holding on to losers. All right. Or wood, dead stocks. Let them go. Cut them loose. No emotional ties when you're trading anyway. We're not married to a particular market or particular direction in any particular market. All right. So, with that being said, the opening bell has rung. So if you need to handle some business, you need to move some stops around, and you go ahead and you do that. I'm going to give you a moment to do that. I need to handle something right quick, so I got to put you on hold. Too bad I don't have no music yet. I'm going to talk to Frank about giving me some music so I can do these commercial breaks. All right, so give me, let's take like a 2-minute commercial break, and I'll be right back. Put those orders in. Stop playing around. And we are back. For those just joining us, you are tuned into the pre-market PulseScan with yours truly, needs.You Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com. All right, so let's see here. Where did we leave off at? Okay, I see where we left off at. All right. So as I was saying, also got to find time to squeeze in a live trading session. So what I think we'll probably do is do one this Wednesday. Okay. I meant to do one last week, but I got busy with these pulse waves. So that's what we'll do. We'll do one on Wednesday, a live one. So you're going to definitely want to be there for that. You get to ask questions. Unfortunately, it's only going to be for the trading room. So if you're a member of PulseWave Trading, if you're a paying member, if you subscribe to the Pulse Waves, you will be able to attend the webinar, okay? And we will go in deep. We'll look at the reports, and we'll go over the reports together, and we'll do some trading. And the topic of the discussion for this week is managing open positions. How to manage open positions using the reports. And as far as we're going to talk trade management, how to move your stops using the report. We're going to talk about why it's important for you to use the initial stop on the reports, the recommended stop, and how you can use that in lieu of using pop. So, for instance, we're going to talk about why we're going to look at how I do it, like why every trade I put on is it automatic holding it overnight. Every trade I do, I'm automatically holding the trade overnight. Doesn't matter if it's stocks, futures, forex, doesn't matter, crypto, doesn't matter. If I'm doing a trade, I'm automatically holding it overnight using the initial recommended stop loss in the report. All right. Pop is for when you are moving your stops to lock in profit. But every trade, you should assume that you're holding it overnight, unless there's some explosive move the same day that you put your trade on. Then you might want to go ahead and start popping on that one and take some money off the table, whatever. But every trade that I do, I'm always holding it overnight. I like to give my trade, 3 to 5 days to develop. And the reason why is because the rally and crash alerts take about 3 to 5 days to fulfill, because they tend to lead the market out that far in the future. Not all the time. Sometimes, or majority of the time, I should say, there's like an 80% chance that every time you get a rally and crash alert, there's an 80% chance that it's going to hit within 24 hours. All right. So when that happens, I'm holding overnight. All right. And I'm sticking with the initial stop. Then I will reevaluate the following day. So we're going to talk about all that. We'll talk about how the pros and cons of everything. We're going to look at the pros and cons of using the pop, pros and cons of using the recommended stop losses in the reports, the pros and cons of all these different things. And you will have the opportunity to ask all and any question you want to ask. All right. No question is dumb or considered off limits. If you are a subscriber to the PulseWave reports, then you get to come into the live trade and ask away. For those of you who will not be able to attend, it will be recorded so you can listen to it at your leisure. And for those of you who know in advance that you will not be able to attend, what you will be able to do, and I recommend this, is for you to post your questions in the trading room for the webinar so that I can address those questions in the webinar for you. Everybody get that? Capiche? All right. Now I don't know what time on Wednesday. I know it'll probably be right after the pre-market post scan. That's normally when we do it. Like we go right out of the pre-market post scan and right into the webinar. So that's what we'll do. So I know it'll be after 10:30. So it'll be between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. That's normally what we do. And one of the reasons why I like to do it that way also is because um, it's, you want to do it after the first hour of trading anyway. And there are a lot of reasons for that. So it'll be between 10:30 and 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time this Wednesday. Okay. All right. So if you know you can't attend and you got questions, post it in the trading room, and I will address your individual questions in the webinar. So you can go back and listen to it and watch it and all that good stuff. All right. So back to this interesting day. Monday. So it's not a Black Monday. It looks like we're going to have one of those narrow range inside day Mondays, or in other words, a boring Monday. And I don't have no problems with a boring Monday. The only place that's not boring is Bitcoin, gold, and silver. All right. So those are on and popping. And we don't have no problem with markets on and popping. Pop away, do what you got to do, market. We have no problems with you breaking out, rallying, and doing all that jazz, all that good stuff. We ain't got no problems. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. So let's finish some of this news, get this out the way, and then I'll let you go. All right. Here's something that's interesting, and that's how we relate to each other during these very interesting times. So let's get into some interesting stuff here. Nothing really deep, just some basic stuff. Just take a look. All right, so we do have some new data published by the CPB Netherlands Bureau for Economic Policy Analysis on Friday. And it revealed world trade fell 1.1% in May after a 12.2% plunge in April. Now, the highlights from the CPB report indicate that world trade continues to decelerate. All right, to my world trade now, decelerating. World trade volume decreased 1.1% month over month. Growth was negative 12.2% in April. Initial estimate was 12.1%. World trade momentum was minus 11.6% non-annualized and minus 6.9% in April. The initial estimate was minus 7.2%. World industrial production increased by 0.8% month over month, having decreased 8.5% in April. The initial estimate was minus 8.1%. World industrial production momentum was minus 7.1% non-annualized and negative 5.8% in April. The initial estimate there was a positive 5.6%. Do you see how way off reality is from the estimates? All right. Now, to visualize the collapse in world trade, CPP published several charts showing world mechanized trade volume to industrial production volume. And it's all suggesting the global recovery is far from a V-shaped recovery. All right. Although the full impact of the planned scamdemic is not yet reflected fully in trade statistics, it is expected to be very substantial, said WTO Director General Roberto Avizito, who presented the trade report to its 164 member states on Friday. Now, the WTO said last month that second quarter of 2020 world trade year over year could plunge upwards of 18%, along with slumping world trade that was noted earlier during the week of July 21st, that the global recovery is running on fumes. To get a better sense of what collapsing world trade means for global stocks, you need look no further than trade volume versus MSCI World. The reason for a levitation in stocks is because of the unprecedented central bank money printing. Wow. I have to tell you, man, You know, you got facts and then you got the narrative, the fiction of the narrative. The facts always overwhelm the narrative. Always. There's no getting around it. Not at all. All right, so here's another issue that's not being talked about too. All right, now, from the beginning of the virus, political elites have used the language of war. The invisible enemy would be contained, suppressed, and beaten into submission. Then it would finally go away. Now, the tactics would be travel bans, shutdowns, closures, mandatory human separation, and restrictions on breathing. The computer models proved it would work, so surely it would. Liberty, human rights, and freedom of association be damned, right? Again, we covered that whole flawed model syndrome a while back here on this channel, where I exposed to you the limitations associated with modeling and how when people are being paid, there is not only contradiction in the models, but there's also conflict of interest. If you're being paid to do something, you're going to make it nice so that those who are paying you will keep paying you. It's an age-old concept that if you are an advisor to the king, you better be advising him good news, the news that he wants to hear. Or he'll either chop your head off and find someone else who will give him good words, or imprison you, or both. Okay? So they have a lot to gain as well as a lot to lose. All right? So they can make the model say whatever they want. All right? Again, a computer is only as good as its input. All right? So if the calculations are off, if the numbers are being made to lie, then that's what you're going to get. All right, that's just what they do. You got statisticians, mathematicians, physicists, all these people on payroll. They will do what you tell them to do. They will say what you tell them to say under political pressure. You know, you pull them aside and say, look, John, your career is on the line here. Do you really want to? Is this a hill you really want to die on? You want to ruin your career? Think about your family. It isn't little Josie in college now? Well, you won't be able to pay her tuition if you get fired. So just give them what they want. I'm trying to help you here, little Johnny. That's the kind of pressure they're under. And you don't see that because you're not privy to that. But that's what's going on behind the scenes. So we've all been used to this foolishness, this social experiment, untried in the whole history of humanity, and in ways that conflict with all values in which we previously believed as free societies. No one in charge asked your opinion or mine. A poll was not taken. And if it was taken, they polled the people that they paid off to give them the feedback that they wanted them to give them. It's called corruption. We are here merely to play our role in an agent-based model. It's the gamification of despotism. The dogma has kept unfolding in ever stranger ways, such as with utterly contemptible restrictions on bars and restaurants, and even the claim that choirs, wind instruments, and the pipe organ itself spreads disease. The American Guild of Organists has been forced to provide a long document justifying the existence of church music. The devastation in the arts community is palpable. The carnage is truly unfathomable and getting worse. Regulations on elevators will make America's mighty skyscrapers unusable and pointless. What if the entire paradigm is wrong? No book on cell and molecular biology that I found mentions lockdowns and hiding as ways to beat a virus. For most viruses that attack humans, says cell and molecular biology for dummies, your only defense and prevention and your own immune systems. Strange, isn't it? Not think about the awesome power of politicians to crush a virus. It should come as no surprise that the most comprehensive and global statistical analysis yet conducted concludes that rapid border closures, full lockdowns, and widespread testing were not associated with COVID-19 mortality per million people, which to say there is no evidence that any of this ghastly destruction saved lives. Again, truth versus facts. Not all facts are truthful. All right. Now I'll tell you this. They told you that you couldn't go to church. All right? You couldn't go to church. It was too deadly. But yet you could go out and buy liquor. They didn't lock down and ban liquor. They didn't ban cigarette smoking, and they didn't ban abortions. Three things that kill more people than anything else in this world. Alcoholism kills more people than COVID. Facts. Abortions kill more human beings than COVID. Facts. But they didn't shut down those clinics, and they didn't shut down any of the liquor stores. They were still able to rock and roll. And they didn't ban protesting. They let Black Lives Matter and they let Antifa march up and down the street and destroy cities and destroy persons and property, both public and private. They didn't ban protesting. They didn't ban alcohol sales. They didn't ban cigarette sales, and they didn't ban abortions. Three things that kill more people, that have taken more lives: cigarette smoking, alcohol, and abortions, have killed more human beings, have taken away more life than any COVID in history. But yet they didn't shut those down. They didn't ban that. They didn't say, nope, we're trying to preserve life here through this this planned scamdemic. All right. The planned scamdemic is trying to save lives. We want to save lives. Everyone stay home. We're banning cigarette sales, and we're banning smoking. We're banning alcohol sale and consumption. We're banning abortions because we're trying to save lives, because Black Lives Matter. We realize that there's a liquor store in every corner in the hood, and Black Lives Matter. So we're going to ban alcohol, and we're going to lock down the stores that sell alcohol. So there'll be no alcohol because Black Lives Matter. And we realize this is destroying the Black community. It's one of the contributing factors of destroying the inner cities. So we're going to ban and shut those down. We also realize that cigarette smoking has killed more people than COVID. And because we're about life, and because Black Lives Matter, and pretty much everywhere you buy liquor, you can buy cigarettes, we're going to shut down and ban cigarette smoking too, because all life matters. And we're going to ban abortion because Black Lives Matter. And it's a statistical fact that more Black women have the most abortions. So we're going to ban and shut down abortion clinics during this COVID planned scamdemic. All right? They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with that. And yet, look, hey, you're still in my thunder in the live chat, man. You're still in my thunder. That was my next point, man. And then peep it. My man, he stole my thunder here in the live chat. I will get you for this, Dirt Danger. I will get you for this. My man just pointed out in the live chat, the third leading cause of deaths in the United States is doctor error, according to John Hopkins study in 2016. 250,000 to 450,000 deaths per year estimated. Yes, facts, people. Facts. Truths and facts. So if you add all of that up, look at the tens of millions of lives that are being lost due to the four factors that I've stated here. But yet they let all that rock. They let that ride out. And then if it's not so bad, they shut down the hospitals. They virtually shut down all the hospitals. So people who were at most risk could not get the medical treatment they needed. They just told them to stay home. You dig what I'm saying? Nonsense. Now, a strangely odd feature of media rhetoric during these terrible months have been the silencing of voices that speak of immunity as the way to defeat a virus of this sort. Now, the AIER has reported them when they appear, but as a seriously disgruntled reader of the New York Times, it is a fact that immunities versus antibodies have not made their coverage much at all. In a way that stuns the most, this is suddenly changed with the coherent write-up of the appeared Can You Get COVID-19 Again? It is very unlikely, experts say. Now, that article is an accurate piece, and it amounts to a full refutation of one of those thousands of ridiculous popular articles claiming that the virus is so unprecedented, so supernatural, so paranormal, so alien and otherworldly, so lethal, so mysterious that the only option is to throw out all morality and treat people like animals. That's what they want you to do. According to the Times, quote, while little is definitely known about the coronavirus, just 7 months into the scam pandemic, the new virus is behaving like most others. It may be possible for the coronavirus to strike the same person twice, but it's highly unlikely that it would do so in such a short window or to make people sicker the second time, they said. People infected with the coronavirus typically produce immune molecules called antibodies. Several teams have recently reported that the level of these antibodies declined in 2 or 3 months, causing some consternation. But a drop in antibodies is perfectly normal after an acute infection subsides, said Dr. Michael Mina, an immunologist at Harvard University. Many clinicians are scratching their heads saying, what an extraordinary odd virus that is not leading to robust immunity, but they're totally wrong. Dr. Mina said, it doesn't get more textbook than this, end quote. Now imagine that immune molecules called antibodies. The Times writes as if it is introducing a new vocabulary word here, even though George Washington's troops understood the point and dangerously pursued inoculation techniques against smallpox. So let's think about this. You get the C19 virus, you get over it, as 99.8% of all people who get it do, especially healthy people. And then you gain protection against that virus and possible other similar viruses for a time. Your immune system improves. The million-year coevolution of humans and viruses takes another step in the direction of progress. The implication? Rather than run and hide, maybe a bit of scientifically informed bravery is in order here. Yes, but if true, wouldn't competent and credentialed epidemiologists be saying this? It turns out that many are. They just aren't getting a hearing because the media and politicians ignore them and ban them for speaking out. They can't get no airtime. They will not give them access to the platforms that will allow them to reach millions of people. All right? So, excuse me. One of the brave and intelligent voices is Sunetra Gupta, the professor of theoretical epidemiology who leads a full team of experts at Oxford University. Her understanding is so profound that she has, in an interview, offered up a fascinating thesis concerning why the full pandemic of 1918 was the last truly catastrophic plague we've seen in the modern world. Gupta's claim is that when we live in isolated tribes that are sheltered from exposure, those people gradually become weaker and more vulnerable. The wrong pathogen arrives at the wrong time, and the people have not been biologically prepared for it. It wipes them out in shocking ways. But with modern capitalism came the end of such sterile isolation. It gave us new methods of traveling, mixing, associating, moving, and hence led to more exposure to disease and the resulting antibodies. Hence, it is not just better therapeutics and vaccines that helped us conquer some plagues, but immunities themselves. Our biological toolkit for fighting disease became improved simply through travel, trade, and global commerce. Once again, travel, trade, and global commerce. The things that they attacked head on with the lockdowns. The very things that helped us to build up our immunity is what they have locked down and banned. Now, here's a long quote from Gupta, beginning with her tutorial on virus immunology 101, gained over the course of the last century, and oddly forgotten in this century. Again, here's a medical doctor, here's a scientist, all right, a giant among her peers, breaking this down, something that the ones that have been paid off, that are shilling for the government, should be ashamed of themselves of doing. That means they have no morals, no ethics. Here's the long quote. Quote, the other interesting issue that I've suddenly realized with this particular threat is that people are treating it like an external disaster, like a hurricane or a tsunami, as if you can batten down the hatches and it will be gone eventually. That is simply not correct. The epidemic is an ecological relationship that we have to manage between ourselves and the virus. But instead, people are looking at it as a completely external thing. See, she's breaking down now the irrationality of the shilling paid for people's rationality. What they're rationing is irrational, and she's breaking it down here through history. Now, that's the axis of disease, but then there's the socioeconomic axis, which has been ignored completely. But there's a third, and that's an aesthetic axis, which is about how we want to live our lives. We are closing ourselves off not just to the disease, but to other aspects of being human. I think the trade-off is very extreme. Obviously, the most extreme manifestation of that trade-off is the 23 million people who will be pushed below the poverty line as a result of this sledgehammer approach. The cost to the arts is, I think, also incredibly profound. The theaters and all other forms of performing arts, but also the inherent art of living, which I think is being compromised. Acts of kindness are being eschewed. Someone was telling me yesterday that their mother said to them, please don't come home. You're going to kill us. Now I see people being terrified, even though they realize the risk to themselves is low, that they might infect a friend who will then give it to their grandparents. This chain of guilt is somehow located to the individual rather than being distributed and shared. We have to share the guilt. We have to share the responsibility, and we have to take on board certain risk ourselves in order to fulfill our obligations and to uphold the social contract. So I like the politicians to remind people of that, because that's what they've been elected to do, to see the social contract as being properly transacted. It's very difficult, I think. There's nothing to do except remind people that it is not only puritanical, but misguided. Because actually, the only way we can reduce the risk to the vulnerable people in the population is for those of us who are able to acquire herd immunity to do that. Even if there's just a little bit of risk. I'm 55 years old. There's some slight risk out there, but I will be willing to take that just as I do with the flu. There's a risk I might die of the flu, but I'm willing to take that risk because I know that if I don't, then flu will appear as it did before. It will enter the population of immunological naive individuals, and then there will be a high risk of infection, which will have a disproportionate effect on the vulnerable sector of the population. Now, maybe the way to counter it now is to say, actually, not only is it a good thing for young people to go out there and become immune, but that it is almost their duty. It's a way of living with this virus. It's how we live with other viruses. Flu is clearly a very dangerous virus, but the reason we don't see more deaths from flu every year is because through herd immunity. The levels of infection are kept to a low level as we can get. End quote. Now, see, that was common sense. It was facts covered in truth. Now, to more on the beautiful seeming magic of herd immunity, which has not recently been estimated to be 10 to 20%. Herd immunity is a technical term for the proportion of the population that needs to be immune in order to prevent the disease from spreading, which is the central concept in vaccinations. It's a fundamental epidemiological concept, which clearly has been subverted. I guess the fact it includes the word herd has made it easier. The truth is that herd immunity is a way of preventing vulnerable people from dying. It is achieved at the expense of some people dying, and we can stop that by preventing the vulnerable class in the process. In an ideal situation, you will protect the vulnerable as best you can, let people go about their business, allow herd immunity to build up, make sure the economy doesn't crash, make sure the arts are preserved, and make sure qualities of kindness and tolerance remain in place. We live, it seems, in a state of terror. Yes, international travel facilities, the interest of contagion. But what it also does is it brings immunity. Uh, on further note, we've been living in a state of terror, you guys, for the past 20 years. A state of terror. A state of terror for 20 years. How do I say that? Why do I say that? Since 9/11, the United States has been suffering with post traumatic stress syndrome. All right, the PTSD of the American psyche has been totally under attack nonstop for the past 20 years. The U.S. has been at war since I've been out of high school. I'll say it again. The United States of America has been engaged in non-ending war since I graduated high school. You know the first thing I was hit with when I graduated high school? Desert Storm. That was my welcome. Welcome to the world. You've graduated high school. You are now considered an adult, and you can join the world of adults. Oh, and by the way, Gulf War. Punched us right in the face. Gulf War. Didn't even have a chance to even live and enjoy being out of school a full year before we start bombing another country. Yeah. Yeah. So I only had a few months to chill, basically, before we were hit with war. Now, those of you who were born, in the 90s, all you've ever known is war. The U.S. has been bombing somewhere since you've been alive. You were born into the war. I was born right outside the war, but had to come into it in adulthood. You guys, by the time you grew up, we was already bombing places, and we're still over there bombing places. nonstop, perpetual war. Now, finally, to the implications for history and the way global capitalism both ended our sterile isolation, but also brought us biological immunity and longer lives. Why don't we get flu pandemics anymore? Because before 1918, there was not sufficient international travel or densities of individuals to keep flu on as the sort of seasonal thing it is now. Pockets of non-immune people would build up and then they would be ravaged. That was the pattern until the end of the First World War. Excuse me. Since then, many of these diseases have become endemic. As a result of which, we are much more exposed to diseases in general and related pathogens. So if anything new comes along, we are much better off than we would be if we hadn't had some sort of exposure to it. Now, if coronavirus has arrived in a setting where we had no coronavirus exposure before, we might be much worse off. It also seems that in addition to protection against severe disease as a result of exposure to related coronaviruses, some fraction of us seem to be resistant to the infection. That's just fantastic news, actually. Hopefully, that will be consolidated at a scientific laboratory level. We ourselves are looking at how antibodies to seasonal coronaviruses can impact on protection against infection and disease. Maybe we will be able to build up a picture that will reassure the public that actually we are much better off having been exposed to related coronaviruses. We are in a better place to fight off this infection than we actually thought. One might think that this learned professor's outlook, offered from her position at perhaps the world's most prestigious university, would hold some sway over media and politics. The implications of what she says is not only that the lockdowns are wrong, not only that the closures are pointless, she goes further. They are making us less healthy and taking steps to revert the progress of health we have made over a century of travel, mixing, and close commercial relationships. The implication of Gupta's view and its flipping of the run and hide, shelter in place narrative offer a promising new way to understand the relationship between modern capitalism and the dramatic improvements in human health we've experienced over a century. It also sends up a warning flare. If we stay on the present course of hiding and futility trying to suppress the virus, we will end up making all of society poorer, both materially and spiritually, and also delivering a dangerous blow to our biological health. Now, see, common sense, truth, and facts all rolled into one. Notice how capitalism brought with it health and immunity, something you don't hear being talked about in the mainstream media. All they want you to hear is sound bites of socialism, which is the kinder, gentler Trojan horse form that leads to tyranny and communism. That's all they want you to hear. That's all they want you to know. They don't want you to hear and see these facts. They built up big walls around the facts. That's what censorship is all about. Building walls and moats around the truth to make sure that you are kept out of the truth. They're not allowing you access to the truth. That's what censorship does. All right. And this is the danger of that. Now you see, they want to undo all the good things that capitalism has brought to the world. And it's indisputable facts and truth. You can't pick apart any of this professor's thesis. It's rock solid. But the question is, what are they going to do about it? Nothing. They're going to ignore it like they always do because it doesn't fit the narrative they want you to know. They want to impoverish the nations. They want people to be sick. Now, here's a factoid that I don't think I've ever shared on this channel as long as I've been on YouTube. So the first Desert Storm, I signed up for the military and went into the military. And I lied to get in. Facts, I lied. Lied on my application. Said I didn't have any illnesses or anything like that. And during boot camp, since they took me to Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri, otherwise known as Fort Leonard Wood, man, I basically averaged an asthma attack every day. So they was like, oh, okay. So, they knew it. They're not stupid. There was a bunch of us in there that they rounded up because it was like, okay, the truth has come out. You said you didn't have this and that. Yeah, you do. And one of the aspects of that was going through the gas chamber, which is part of your training. And it was like, if you have heart conditions and asthma and stuff, you cannot go through that part of the training. And at that time, if you couldn't do that, then you could not complete your basic training, which means they had to give you a medical discharge from the service. But here's the thing, though. When I had signed up, I also had volunteered to go overseas for a year, to go to Korea. And so when I did that, what they did was when you first come in, they call it reception back then. I know things have changed drastically in the military since then, but this is like a million years ago. So back then, anyone who was going to be traveling overseas as part of the MOS or whatever, what would happen is you would get an extra dose of medicine. Everyone who came into the military got medicine. You got shots. You got mad shots. Most of the stuff you didn't even know what you were getting. They didn't tell you, and you weren't even allowed to ask. And the one thing that they gave us, it was like toothpaste. It looked like toothpaste in a tube, and it was white, and it was thick. And when they gave it to you, it burned, man, like fire going into your body, right? Now, context. Prior to me going into the service, I was a very sickly child, very sickly, right? I got, the flu or whatever every year, you know what I'm saying? Temperatures, the whole nine. I got sick a lot, and I was allergic to everything. I was basically bubble boy. I'm here to tell you, and my wife can testify to this. After I got the basic shots that they give you in the military, and then they give you the extra stuff for going overseas, my wife can tell you, I never got sick again. Not even a cold. I have no idea what they gave us. All I know is I never got sick again. A decade into our marriage, I had not even suffered so much as a common cold. Nothing. Nothing. Had no problem with allergies, asthma, nothing. And that lasted for a long time, over a decade. All right? So I don't know what was in them shots, but whatever it was, it alleviated all of that for me. All right? No flu, no common cold, no allergy issues, no asthma under control, none of that. I was like a new person, you guys. So not only does the technology exist, I'm living proof that it does, because after I got those shots and came home, I never got sick again. Period. It seems to have worn off now. But for a long time, you guys, 10 years plus, no sick, no flu, no nothing. And I do not know what was in those shots, as the many other men that were there with me. We know not what was in those shots. All right, so there you have it. So yeah, immunity is real. All right, and I know how a lot of people feel about immunizations and vaccinations. I'm one of them. I am not anti-vax or anti-vaccinations. I am anti the fake ones that the majority of the population receives. I don't like how they give you things that don't tell you what's in it and don't provide to you ingredients. You have to do that on every food product that you buy. There's an ingredients printed on the bag. The only thing they don't have to disclose is trade secrets. like the formula for Coca-Cola, the secret sauce for KFC chicken. They don't have to put that nowhere because that's a trade secret, that's intellectual property. But everything else, the basics, they have to put on the bag. Sorry, you have to put it on there. So I'm anti that. And we do have evidence, facts, and truth where people have gotten very sick and even died after getting immunizations and vaccinations. I believe the things that's given to the public does not work and is meant to make them sicker and break down their immune system. And it also leads to autism. How else do you explain the spike in autism? If you go back even 50 years to now, you see this incredible spike in autism, like 10,000% spike, whatever, just off the chain. And there's documentaries and stuff that have been done on that and books that have been written exposing that whole thing. I don't have to go there, but you guys get my drift. That's why I had to share that with you this morning. Yeah, I agree. I like the way you said that. I'm not anti-vax. I'm pro-informed consent. Yes, there you go. Yes, there you go. That's what I am. John. Yeah, thanks, man, for bringing that up. You just reminded me. Yeah, so we're doing an FOMC this Wednesday as well. FOMC, live FOMC, as we do every single FOMC. We do a live FOMC. So thanks for bringing it up, John, in the live chat. Thanks for letting me know that. Yep, we'll be doing it. We will be doing it. Let's see here. Oh, almost time to wrap up here. Okay. Hold on. We're gonna wrap it. We're gonna finish it up. All right. Let's see here. We talked about some stuff last week, and I wanted to lead off with that this week. And I've been telling I don't toot my own horn about being right about anything. These are things that I'm sad about, that I wish that I was wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but every day I'm being proven more right. And what I'm talking about is retirement. I told you they were coming for your jobs. I've been telling you that a long time ago. And now that's happening. You see it now. 50 million jobs plus lost this year alone, more than it were created in the last 20 years. But then I told you that they were also going to be coming for your safe havens. All right. The bond market is questionable right now. And for the longest time, they had their boot on the neck of the precious metals market. And they were collapsing Bitcoin price with gold and silver, and bonds were crashing. This, interest rates is zero. They're just, I told you they were coming for your hedges. But now it's worse. Now they're also coming for your retirement. I've been talking about the pension crisis that is coming to show its head. It's coming, folks. I wish I was wrong. This is probably the scariest of all. All the other stuff is scary too, and very concerning. But the retirement thing is the most scary. What do I mean, and why do I say that? Well, I say it because when you talk about the retirement situation, you're talking about Social Security vanishing. You're talking about disability vanishing. You're talking about private and public, including government, state, and federal pensions going away. If that happens, then what are the elderly supposed to do? How are they supposed to live? They won't. In a way, and it hurts to even have to really talk about this and break this down, but since nobody else seems to have the guts to do it, I have to do it. Okay? This isn't just elder abuse. This is that term I'm looking for, this that I can't think of right now. What do you call that when you're trying to exterminate elderly people? Well, there's a term for that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. There's a term for that. Remember, it was a big argument in the 90s about assisted suicide, remember? Or John Kevorkian? No, not genocide. There's a term for this, and I can't think of it right now. But basically, I mean, all types of movies and TV shows have covered this. Euthanasia. There you go. Thanks, Sling. Euthanasia. Yeah. Euthanasia. There you go. Yes. There you go. Soylent Green. Yeah. There you go. Matter of fact, one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone was when it was like, if you live beyond your purpose, they would say that you are man. All these terms are eluding me right now because I got PulseWaves on the mind. Obsolete. Remember, they was like, you're obsolete. So if you were determined obsolete by the government, then you had to die. They would kill you. So basically, that's a big thing here, not just in the United States, but worldwide. The whole euthanasia debate and being considered obsolete. And there is a big. We've already entered in. 20 years ago, there was talk about the elderly crisis that was coming, and we're already here. We're already here now. Where they were saying we're gonna have an explosion of elderly people, and they're really talking about the baby boom generation, who will be our new elderly, and we don't have enough young people working, in the workforce to pay for the Social Security and the disability and all that stuff. We don't have enough in the pensions, and that was 20 years ago. That was a heated debate 20 plus years ago, folks. Well, we're here now. They say in the next 20 years is going to be a big deal. We're here now. This is 20 years later. Now what? And we just lost 50 million jobs in America. So what's going to happen to the elderly and the senior homes and stuff? What's going to happen? You see what I'm saying? So we're here now. Okay, breaking news. White House GOP agreed to unemployment insurance transition. Who knows what that is? Gen Zers are calling COVID-19 the boomer remover. Wow. Now that is hardcore. That's hard body karate. Whoa. Even by my standards, why you gonna hit me with that, man? Why you gonna do that to me, Dirt? I didn't have my big boy pants on yet, man. See? Now I done made a mess. Now I gotta go change my underwear. See what you done did, man? Why you gonna have to go there with me, man? But if you think about it, I argued this weeks ago. Did I not say that it's almost as if this thing was engineered to take out the elderly because it's a crisis? And again, I haven't heard anybody go in and analyze why that is. Why is it the elderly or the most susceptible? And don't say because they're old, their bodies are breaking down. We understand that, but that's not what I'm talking about. If the rising cases are happening in the nursing homes, a nursing home is analogous to a hospital. The staff wear scrubs, all right, and they're supposed to make sure that the place is sanitary, and it's medical. It's a medical place. You got doctors even coming in and out, checking on their patients and doing rounds. So, how is it a place of medical staff? This is say it's analogous to a hospital. How are you having the most rising cases happening in a hospital? It's not making any sense. It's not making any sense. And some of these assisted living / quasi nursing homes are even more hardcore than that because they have like two sides. Like it may be like two buildings. So one building is for your regular, elderly, but then they have a separate building. You know what that building's for? That separate building is for those that are suffering with Alzheimer's. And that door is locked, so they can't just freely walk out of the facility. It's locked from the inside. All right? You got to be buzzed in if you want to come and visit somebody in there. You got to be on a list and all this other stuff. So there's checks and balances up in there. Now the other building is for the other elderly. They're free to come and go as they want. They can come sit outside, you know what I'm saying, whatever. But the ones in the other building, they can never go outside. They can never go outside. It's like they're in prison. They can never go outside. What they have is they have like a grounds inside. Like, all right, so here's a building. Imagine a building like a donut with the hole in the middle cut out. That's your little grassy knoll, your little grassy area with benches and stuff where they can go and outside and do that from time to time. But for the most part, they get no sunlight. They don't go outside. They can't because they are Alzheimer patients. And in some places, they wear wristbands saying, okay, this one is a fall warning. All right, so this one's not allowed to be walking around by themselves. They're not allowed to move, basically, unless somebody come and put them in a wheelchair or whatever, because they have a fall hazard wristband on. So they have different color wristbands that mean certain things. Okay, so if they're locked in, they're already locked in, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going nowhere. And then you're extreme nursing homes where when you walk in, everybody's they're in a hospital type bed. All right, like a hospital. All right, they can't move. They old. They sickly old, whatever. They can't go nowhere. All right. I mean, for them to even be transported anywhere, they got to be transported by ambulance. Even to their doctor's appointments, they got to get. So if they have to go see a specialist or something, they got to literally get an ambulance to come pick them up, load them onto the ambulance, and then take them to the appointment. All right, I'm spitting game to y'all who don't know how the medical community works. Being that I had my little brief stint in healthcare, I can tell you how it works. I worked on both sides. I worked for an insurance company. I also worked for a specialist in private practice, so I can tell you how it works, how it goes down. All right, they can't do nothing. Some of them, they can barely even move. Okay, I'll never forget this one guy came in. He was. I feel blessed because some people never got this opportunity, especially those of you born later. There was a guy who came into the office. He was like 100 and something years old, right? Had to come in by way of ambulance, hospital bed to see the orthopedic surgeon. And it was amazing because I got to see someone who was born in the 1800s. That's right. I saw someone, and it is really just, I mean, I was blown away, who was born in the 1800s. All right? They were born in the 19th century. So you young people today have never met anyone born in the 19th century because you were born either like you young people, like those of you, I know young people listen to this. You're born in the 2000s or the late 90s. So that generation already died out, so you didn't get a chance to meet them and talk to them. But I was blessed to be able to do that, and it was amazing. Yeah, I see you, Crypto. You said your grandparents were born in 1899. Yeah, this guy was born in 1898. It was between 1895 and 1898. He was born in between that. So I was like, wow, somebody who was born in the 19th century, and I get to see that. It was I don't know, maybe I'm corny, I don't know, but for me it was just a wow experience to see someone born during that time, the 19th century. You know what I mean? Do you know the history people like that would have? I enjoy talking to elderly people. They could tell you everything. You weren't there. They could tell you about the Titanic. They can tell you about, the crash of 29. They could tell you about, the Depression, World War I and World War II. I can tell you right now, my favorite teacher when I was in high school was a guy who was in the war, against Hitler. And he was like 90 something years old. And his stories that he told just about the war itself, I had never heard anywhere else before. And the stuff that he was saying was absolutely amazing. I had never heard nothing like that before. Not even in movies, they don't talk about some things he was talking about. And I know I've brought this up before years ago on this channel. And then there was another guy that I liked, and he was a patient in the office I worked at. It was a black guy, and he was in the Navy. And some of the stories he told, the things that they saw, I mean, even how he was retelling the story, it was like he was having PTSD just by telling me the story. And I will never forget it when he said that there were two things. I said, tell me, what's the thing about the war, that you remember the most or that impacted you the most? Most guys will say, yeah, seeing my best friend get shot, whatever, dying, whatever. And they would say something like that, right? And that was most of the stories. They would tell you that. They would tell you how it was in country, stuff like that. But nah, this dude, he said actually it's two stories. He said it was two things that blew him away. And you got to think about the time period. We're talking about war with Hitler, right? Late 30s, early 40s, right? World War II or one, whatever, which one it was. And they didn't have the technology we have today. All right, hands down, they did not. Or so we think. Now, I think later on in life, I saw one thing documented that he told me. I saw a video footage of it. Okay. I said, what are the things you saw that were amazing, that affect you to this day? He said actually there were two things. And he said the first thing that he saw was Ford Motor Company had created some special type of a vehicle. And he said all he saw was he saw the car roll up on the beach, from the road. It came down, it drove, came off road, came down the beach, and drove right into the ocean. And he said he never saw anything like that, and he never saw it again. So some type of car, submarine, something, and he saw him drive. It drove. He said he never seen it before. It blew him away. Now I saw some old black and white footage of that. What he just said, I saw that. I saw some of that, and I was blown away. I was like, "Yo, dude, told me about that. He told me about that." But the thing that turned him like white as a ghost. All right, this is a darker skinned dude. He was almost white as a ghost. I thought he was going to pass out when he told me the story. Seriously, like he was reliving the story he told me. He said the most thing that blew him away, it was in the middle of the ocean. I forget where he said they were, but they were way out, like way out. And he said they saw he was on like an aircraft carrier. Those things are huge. There's some aircraft carriers that are a mile long. So we know the aircraft carriers are humongous vessels on the ocean, right? He said he saw this thing in the middle of the ocean. They saw like this big disturbance out in the middle of the water. And he said it looked like a giant turtle came out of the water. It looked as big as a city, he said. Now, an aircraft carrier is a city in of itself. He said it made his aircraft carrier look like a tiny boat compared to this thing that came out of the water. He said it looked like a city. It rose out of the water, and he said everybody on the ship was petrified. They had never seen nothing like that before. They thought they were going to die. Everyone aboard the vessel thought they were going to die. And then as soon as it came up out of the water, it went back down into the water. And they say they never saw nothing like that before. Everybody on the vessel was shook. They literally thought they were going to die. They had never seen nothing like that before. And it was frightening. They couldn't even hardly describe it. So he said this is what he saw. He saw that. And he almost turned white as a ghost, like he was reliving the story when he told me. I was blown away. I will never forget it. So we love our elderly, our grandparents. They have some of the most amazing stories that you'll be like, oh, they just pulling my leg. They just whatever. Maybe one day I'll do a live video on this or something. Stories that I have learned from elders throughout the years, that many of which have been verified and only to be talked about later in documentaries and stuff made now. Like you can go on Prime or Netflix or on cable and look at the documentary channel or the history channel, and some of the stuff they actually do touch on and talk about. But anyway, some of the wildest stories I've ever heard have all come to pass. I've seen video footage, or it was in some old book, or talked about in the antiquities and stuff like that. So the fact that we will disrespect our elderly by saying thank you for all your wisdom and things like that, all your experience, and to show you how much we appreciate you, here's a coronavirus. Go into the light, Grandpa. Go into the light. That's how we respond to them. That's what we give them. They have seen things that we will never see. There are things that they have experienced that we have not experienced at all. One of the things, unless you have like done the research, you won't know this either. Did you know that Hitler had created UFOs? Adolf Hitler had UFOs in a deep underground bunker that they were going to unleash on the world, and that they had set aside deformed children to man them so that it could mess with the minds of the world that he was going to war with. So you would think that aliens literally landed, and he was going to crash land them too. So that you think that Hitler, that the aliens are on the side of Hitler and make the world want to give up. So he was going to win by psychological default. Straight up. Yeah. This is real talk, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of things that have been kept out of historical record or not really talked about on purpose. On purpose. Why is that? You gotta start asking yourself the question, why is that? So anyway, I bring all that up to say that despite the surging stock market from the March lows, trillions of dollars in liquidity support from the Fed, retirement confidence is in decline, ladies and gentlemen, for good reason. All right. Now, regarding a 2018 Fox Business study, that study showed that more Americans doubted they will be able to save enough for retirement than those confident of reaching their retirement goals. 37% are not confident that they can save enough money to retire. 32% are confident that they can save enough, and 48%, however, don't think their retirement savings will reach $1 million. Again, this is a study done in 2018. Another study in 2018 from Northwestern Mutual showed equality depressing statistics. Quote, Americans feel underprepared for the financial realities of retirement. According to new data from Northwestern Mutual, nearly 8 in 10, 78% of Americans are extremely or somewhat concerned about affording a comfortable retirement. At the same time, 2/3 believe there is some likelihood of outliving their retirement savings. Again, that was in 2018, ladies and gentlemen. 2 years later, and with the market 22.5% higher, have things improved? Have they? Let's look at the index. According to a recent update of the Simply Wise Retirement Confidence Index, the answer is no. With the unemployment rate remaining above 10%, the rise in virus cases and updated policies that threaten to make the coronavirus-related layoffs and furloughs permanent. In a country where most people live paycheck to paycheck, this could be devastating. Most Americans lack the savings to last them even 3 months. Of course, that savings gap is all the more dramatic when it comes to saving for retirement. And with the havoc the planned scamdemic has wrought, that savings gap seems likely to worsen. And again, some of the unintended consequences of some of the businesses, some of the stores that we like to go to, the little less known mom and pop shops that you go to pick up certain things that you can't get at the big stores, the big lot stores. Guess what? They're gonna go bye-bye. And that's gonna wreak havoc for a lot of people. Havoc. Havoc. According to the July 2020 Simply Wise Retirement Confidence Index, 62% of Americans are more concerned about retirement today than how they are feeling about it a year ago. Such is up from 56% in the May 2020 index. The survey also found that 70% of people in their 50s who are nearest to retirement are more concerned about retirement today. You see how this all comes around? How it all come back around? The findings. Here are the key findings of the report. 62% of Americans are more concerned about retirement today compared to a year ago. This is up from 56% in May 2020 index. Half of Americans believe they will outlive their retirement savings. Half. 72% now plan to work in retirement, up from 67% in May. Only 58% of those in the workforce are making what they were making before the COVID-19, 67% for white Americans, 50% for Hispanic Americans, and a whopping 45% for Black Americans. While you out there looting and rioting and tearing up stuff, you're losing. You're losing. 1 in 5 Americans in their 60s have lost their jobs or were furloughed due to COVID-19. 24% are now planning to tap their 401ks, including 41% of those laid off due to COVID. Wow. I hope y'all hear this, man. This is some sick stuff. This is sick. This is sick. Sick. But you need to know. You need to hear it. It's a lot, man. That's a lot. That's a lot. 1 in 5 Americans in their 60s have lost their jobs or were furloughed because of this. 63% of Black Americans could not come up with $500 cash today without selling something or taking out a loan, compared to 35% of white Americans. Wow. Almost twice as many Black Americans are worse off compared to 35% of white Americans. So most Black people cannot come up with $500 in cash right now today without selling something or taking out a loan. And you got time to be on the streets talking about Black Lives Matter and joining Antifa and tearing stuff up when you need to be out there finding you some money? But my bad. Let me rephrase that, because then I don't want to sound ignorant. I'm sorry. They are getting paid. I forgot. They're paying these people to riot and to protest. I forgot. George Soros is backstopping their deeds in the street. Wow. 48% of Black Americans and 43% of Hispanic Americans could survive less than a month on savings versus 33% of white Americans. Half of Americans say another stimulus check is very important to their finances. 72% and 83% of Democrats versus 60% of Republicans believe a recession will continue into next year, and they got it wrong. It's not a recession, it's a depression. Let's take a look at the COVID infection. Now, as noted, the disruption caused by the economic shutdown has permanently impaired the retirement plan of many. Those over the age of 65 and still working have been steadily increasing over the years due to better health and longevity. The need for medical insurance and underfunded retirement accounts. However, post-COVID, many have been displaced, as shown by the sharp drop and the unemployment to population of that demographic. All right. Such is even worse, more problematic for 72% of those surveyed who are planning on working well into their retirement. Importantly, this age group are some of the highest income earners. Those job losses put a damper on hopes for recovery and consumption, while 49% of those surveyed could only live off savings for 1 year. The burden on pension and welfare funds will increase markedly. And again, the increase in pension and welfare funds. All right. How long people in their 50s could afford to live off their savings? Less than a month, 20%. Less than 3 months, 36%. Less than a year, 49%. That's incredible. So what about the roadblocks to saving? Well, there are pretty depressing statistics when you think about it. However, the bottom 80% of income earners whose income growth has been stagnant over the last 2 decades, the roadblocks to saving money shouldn't be surprising. No, it shouldn't be. Again, we're talking about facts, man. All right, you can't make this stuff up. This is the man on the street analysis. Just ask the average man on the street; they'll tell you straight up. And really, it's worse than that. They'll tell you it's worse than that. Now, in a survey from Kiplinger and Personal Capital, Americans said the biggest roadblocks to saving for retirement were these 3 factors. 1, the high cost of health insurance. From 1999 to 2017, the cost of family health insurance coverage has more than doubled the amount of take-home pay it consumes. That's fact number 1. Fact number 2, disappointing investment performance. Just under 30% of all respondents, 29.4%, said that disappointing investment performance has stopped them from saving as much as they would like to for retirement. And there are many factors for that. I think that the rules that the government, the stipulations that the government puts on you makes it impossible for you to achieve what you need to achieve. Case in point, they don't let you manage your 401k the way you want to. They give you a handful of choices to make it seem like you have options, but you really don't have any choices. What if you want to say, look, let me take my 401k and I want to trade the S&P 500, the E-mini futures contract, or I want to be able to trade stocks. I want to be able to go in and out. I want to be able to day trade, swing trade, whatever. No, they make you put money in funds, okay? And you can only reallocate like once or twice a year, if that, okay? Nonsense. If they allowed you to take, back the responsibility and roles for your retirement, then we'd be better off. But they don't. If they would allow everyone to open up a trading account with their 401k, and then the employer has to, put money in there every pay period with you. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand how wealthy people could really get? But no, the government's in the way, and they know what's best for you, so they're telling you what to do and how to do it. Oh, it's too risky if you trade. You don't know what you're doing. We want to protect you from yourself. And third, the amount of consumer debt they carried. 21.3% of Americans said that debt, not including student loans, kept them from saving for retirement, combined with the increased cost of living. So how do you fill the gap? How do you do it? There is a gap between income, savings, and the cost of living. The continued increases in debt, which was used to fill the gap between income and the cost of living, contributed to the retardation of economic growth. Now, this is the part you got to put on your big boy and big girl pants, because this right here is a little scary. You ready? Here you go. It's hard to reduce debt when it's required just to make ends meet. So this leads us to the pension crisis. Currently, 75.4 million baby boomers in America, about 26% of the U.S. population, have reached or will reach retirement age between 2011 and 2030. All right. Many of them are public sector employees. Correct. In a 2015 study of public sector organizations, nearly 50% of the responding organizations stated they could lose 20% or more of their employees to retirement within the next 5 years. Local governments are particularly vulnerable. A full 37% of local government employees are at least 50 years old in 2015. That was 5 years and one economic shutdown ago. Today, the roughly $6 trillion under funding of pensions has come home to roost. Moody's Investor Service estimated that state and local pension funds had lost $1 trillion in the market sell-off that began in February of 2020. The exact damage is hard to determine, though, because pension funds do not issue quarterly reports. At the end of the year, we will find out the true extent of the damage. However, this is not and has not been a real plan to fix the underfunded problem. Hope for higher rates of sustained returns continues to be the only palatable option. However, targeted returns have continuously fallen short of the projected goals. They can't catch up. The amount owed to retirees is accelerating faster than assets on hand to pay those future obligations. Liabilities of major U.S. public pensions are up 64% since 2007, while assets are up 30%, according to the most recent data from Boston College's Center for Retirement Research. So if the assets are only up 30%, but you figure the liabilities have increased twofold, you're not going to be able to make it. You can't make it. If your bills are $3,000 a month and you only make $1,500 a month, you're bankrupt basically. Okay. If the numbers above are right, pension funds must set aside the unfunded obligations of approximately $5 to $6 trillion today. Without doing so, the principal and interest won't cover the program's shortfall between tax revenues and payouts over the next 75 years. With boomers forced to retire sooner than planned due to the economic shutdown, the window of opportunity to fix pensions has closed. Demography, however, is destiny for entitlements, so arithmetic will do the meddling, a quote from George Will. What about the social welfare strains? Well, it isn't just public pensions that are in trouble. The collapse of economic growth has resulted in a collapse in federal tax revenue needed to pay for the massive social welfare schemes in the U.S. It now requires in excess of 100% of tax recipients just to meet the mandatory spending of social welfare and interest on the debt. In other words, we are now going into debt more just to provide social assistance. How bad is it? Social Security will be insolvent and unable to pay the full value of promised benefits by 2035. Just 15 years, folks. And remember, when they do their projections are always fabricated 100%. So if they're saying 15 years, it's really within the next 6 to 7 years. Social Security's cost will exceed its income by 2020. That's this year, according to a new report published Monday by the program's trustees. At the end of 2018, Social Security was providing income to about 67 million Americans. About 47 million of them were over the age of 65, and the majority of the rest were disabled. If nothing changes, the Social Security Trust Fund will be fully depleted by 2035. And again, they always double it so that it's still alarming, but it sounds a little bit better and you don't panic the public. But in truth and reality, it's within the next 5 years, 7 tops. So the next 5 to 7 years, done. If such occurs, the program would impose across the board cuts of 20% to all beneficiaries. It's getting worse. That report, dire in its warning already, was issued before the scam pandemic and the economic shutdown that resulted. Meanwhile, demographics are blowing up the basic premise of how Social Security is funded. There were 2.8 workers for every Social Security recipient in 2017. That's down from 3.3 in just 2007. So in 10 years, right, you can see the decrease. You went from 3.3 to 2.8. And that's way down from the 5.1 workers per beneficiary that existed in just 1960. Wow. A lot can happen in 50 years, can it? Furthermore, the two programs function mostly as a giant convoy built to transfer wealth from the young and relatively poor to the old and relatively rich. Again, the two programs function mostly as a giant conveyor belt to transfer wealth from the young and relatively poor to the old and relatively rich. Such allows the average person who now lives to be approximately 78 years of age more than a decade of taxpayer-funded retirement. All right? Now, according to the scriptures, a man's days will not exceed 80 years. So that's age 70. Age 70 is the average age for a human being after the flood of Noah. Welfare now makes up the highest percentage of disposable income. Did y'all know that? Did you know that? Welfare now makes up the highest percentage of disposable personal income in history, despite record low unemployment, rising wage growth, and the longest economic expansion in U.S. history. Now, during the Great Depression 1.0, the economically devastated masses would form bread lines. Today, those bread lines form at the mailbox. Today, without government largesse, many individuals would be living on the street. The chart above shows all the government welfare programs are current levels to date. The black line represents the sum of the underlining subcomponents. Since the onset of the scam pandemic, unemployment insurance and other benefits have surged by $3 trillion, along with continued rises in all of the benefits like Social Security, Medicaid, and veterans benefits. Now, importantly, for the average person, these social benefits are critical to their survival. Government assistance now makes up 38% of real disposable personal incomes. With more than a third of the incomes dependent on federal assistance, it should not be surprising the economy continues to struggle. Recycled tax dollars used for consumptive purposes has virtually no impact on increasing economic activity. No impact. Zero, zilch, nada. Bull markets aren't the answer. While the Fed keeps inflating stock markets, the trickle-down effect, there's Reaganomics, ring a bell, Reaganomics? The trickle-down effect has yet to occur. Even as noted in the Simply Wise survey, Disappointing investment returns have stunted retirees' savings plans. However, after 4 decades of transferring wealth from the middle class to the rich, it is the top 10% of income earners who own 88% of the stock market. Such isn't surprising. For the rest, two major bear markets, lack of wage growth and surging cost of living, have eroded any ability to build savings for retirement. Such is why most retirees will depend on social welfare for 50% or more of their retirement incomes. At the age of 63, baby boomers are starting retirement and they're staring it in the face. Yet, because of devastation of two major bear markets, they are no closer to their retirement goals than they were 13 years earlier. Despite a massive surge in the markets from the scam pandemic lows, trillions in market support from the Fed, and household support from the government, retirement confidence continues to erode. The mirage of consumer wealth has not been a function of a broad-based increase in America's net worth. Instead, it has been a division in the country between the top 20% who have the wealth and the bottom 80%, depending on increasing debt levels to sustain their current standard of living. With a vast amount of individuals already vastly undersaved and dependent on social welfare, the current economic devastation will reveal the full extent of the retirement crisis. Of course, this is also why the calls for more socialistic policies continue to rise. So now you understand the call for the socialism because they are aware of this. And we will really get the truth about this at the end of the year when the pension fund reports come out. Okay? Just saying. This is why, again, you guys, I try to help as much as I can. That's why I developed the PulseWave price trigger reports to help those who have their eyes and ears open and want to take back control of their financial independence. So that's why we do what we do on this side of the aisle. That's why I do it, man. I do it for that. I do it for that. All right. So think about what we talked about today because it is very critical. And I just don't see anything coming anytime soon. I can't see it. I don't see how they're going to be able to print their way out of this one. You know? So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I am out. Purge.